Now this is fun. After we come back from a commercial break, the music that they're playing in the background is part of Joe Walsh's song. Life's been good to me so far. So, normally they wouldn't want to pay to have the rights to a very popular song like that to use in the show, but they managed to work out a deal with Joe Walsh or Joe Walsh's record company or whatever, and so we got to have Joe Walsh's one of his most famous songs as a solo artist playing in the background throughout this scene. And this is where Claire is finding out, tell me more about Graham Riley and, what it was like here and, why is Pam so upset about her son following in his footsteps? Oh, just in the very edge of the left side of the screen there was the Twinkie, that sound man's van that I told you about earlier, and you might get another glimpse of the Twinkie as we had members of our crew bringing some of their own trucks and trailers and vans and whatever that looked like, camping gear to stick in the background of our various shots. In this scene, again, we're just at Liberty Park. We've taken a portion of the park and turned it into our little campground, and we shot there for, I don't know, maybe a couple of days doing that. If you divide this up into the 8 days that it took us total to shoot the entire episode, there were probably a couple of days on our soundstage with the Airstream interior set and the RJ's Music Store interior set. There was a day down in Lehigh for the exteriors down there on Main Street, and then a few days here in and around Liberty Park, both for these kinds of scenes here and also the at the festival. Again, this is back at Lehigh, and we shot all of our Lehigh exterior scenes on the first day of shooting for this episode, as I recall. It was the very end of August, as I recall, and this may have I hard to remember right now, but I think the episode might have spanned between the end of August and the beginning of September. And here they're having a little bit of a conversation, again trying to establish this theme of the episode where Dinah is saying, hey, Graham Riley used to say that all the drugs made him feel more creative, and Claire, without admitting to anything in her past, is trying to say, oh, drugs only make you think you're more creative. It's really not. You really don't want anything to do with that. And so now Dinah asks straight out to Mom, hey, did you ever try drugs? And she says, I never wanted to. And she's very troubled by how's this going to go. Now, in this scene, Claire is just fascinated by... Oh, there's the Twinkie in the background. Do you see that? Right over his shoulder? Okay. Claire's starting to express an interest in Trevor's musical ability. And then he shows up out of the blue to hang out with Josh. Now, normally in the script of an episode... They don't go into great detail about anything except what you can see, so and what you can hear. So you got the dialogue, descriptions of what you're able, what the setting is, and if there's any other sounds besides dialogue. That's the kind of detail that the script gets into. It usually doesn't specifically say what's inside the head of the character, but in this script as I recall, there was an actual reference to what Claire is thinking about coming up soon when she's going to be hearing these two young men playing music together. So once again, we're in the Airstream interior set that was built. And once again, it was up to the music composer who worked on the show to come up with music that's supposed to sound really cool. Something that the whole family thinks is going to be great, and the crowd later on that hears this in a public performance is going to think is really great. And so anyway, as far as the Airstream trailer set that they built, one of the neat features that they did is they built it into they divided it into sections. And so they could, for a scene like this, they could pull the what would be in a real Airstream trailer, the front end section of the trailer, they could just remove that from the platform that this is all on. And so then we could get lights and camera gear and whatever up on the platform, and inside this, what would have been an impossible place to shoot if it were a real Airstream trailer, becomes a very practical set that they built and that we used for 3 seasons. That was neat right there, how they managed to cut in something we shot at the exterior location right there. We're at Liberty Park and the camera looking out the door, but right here where you're seeing, this is in the set. So these are, several miles away from each other, but through the magic of editing, it really does look like she's just looking in the door and enjoying the music that's going on. And this is where the script described Claire's thoughts. As Claire is watching this incredibly talented, gifted musical prodigy who's now playing the harmonica, she's thinking about how her past relationship with Graham Riley, what if it had turned into, she would have lived happily ever after with Graham Riley, and this kid would have been her son. That's the kind of thoughts that apparently are going through Claire's head. Now, here we are in a real house on the, I believe it's the west side of Salt Lake City. I wasn't actually there when they shot this scene because I was standing in for Gerald McRaney. He's not in this scene at all. He was not at this location at all through the episode. But it's a real house, and you could see outside the door, traffic going by through the window. The decision to use a real house, a practical location, as they would say, versus building a set for this kind of thing, it depended on several factors. I suppose just first of all, how much did we need to use the location? In this case, we didn't need to use very much of it, so it wasn't that disruptive. How much would it cost to build a set in order to play these scenes out? In this case, they decided to find a house. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, that one of the young ladies who became another one of our stand-ins on the show lived in this house in real life, or lived nearby. I can't remember. Somehow, one of our stand-ins was discovered when they went around and they were shooting at her neighborhood, I guess. So anyway, okay. I should tell you that the woman playing the part of Pam Riley is Gail O'Grady, an actress who just a little bit more than a year earlier was in a TV miniseries with Gerald McRaney. They played a lot of scenes together. The show was Sidney Sheldon's Nothing Lasts Forever, which also starred former Miss America and pop singer star actress Vanessa Williams. And Brooke Shields was also in that show. And I think Gregory Harrison was in that show. Anyway, so I'd actually met and worked with Gail O'Grady about a year earlier. Okay, that guy in the middle there that had the beard, that took the swig of beer or whatever substance that was supposed to be, that was one of our real art department guys. In fact, they probably all were right there. This is, again, a stage that they built there at the Liberty Park location and dressed it up. Normally this would have been just, there's a big sidewalk there and you're right in the middle of the park, but I thought they did a great job of dressing it up and making it look like a lived-in location where you'd have vendors and a stage and whatnot. In this scene, it's a great scene showcasing, there's some really fine acting, I think, in this scene. You've got Sarah, of course, as the young Dinah, and Hollywood royalty Celeste Holm playing Hattie Green. And in this, Dinah's trying to say, what happens when something's really bugging you, and I think maybe someone might have taken drugs, and Hattie says, well, then you better tell your mom right away. And Dinah's like, oh, can you keep a secret? And Grandma says, well, yeah, but I don't know if I can in this case. What's going on? And oh, there's that picture. And so she's just saying, well, you better talk to your mom, and you better get this done right away, because this situation is only gonna get worse. It's a great scene, and two great performances, and it's just fun to watch. And this was just it was a nice. I think this was late in the day, in the late summer, right before school starts up again. Just a wonderful little moment there to look back on. Again, it was 1996, and I'm recording this nearly 19 years later, in 2015, and it's hard to believe it's been that long ago. Now, once again, they've mixed up scenes from the exterior of the Airstream trailer to this interior set and made it look like these things are happening, right next to each other. At this point, mom and dad are having an argument about dad saying, you really need to mind your own business with this Trevor Riley thing, and don't try to convince his mom that he should be, that he needs to be out in the open with his gift, his musical gift. And and she's talking about what a great, wonderful, gifted musician this kid is, and there's Josh outside overhearing this whole conversation and getting these feelings like, wait a minute, and this is the key scene here. She says, "Oh, that kid Trevor, he's great. In just 5 seconds, he figured out that song that Josh has been struggling with for so long." And then you saw the look on Josh's face. Oh, great! Now she thinks I'm a lousy musician, and thinks she'd rather have Trevor as a son. Little does Josh know that Claire had a fling with Graham Riley, for all we know, and so. Anyway, here's the great thing about Joe Walsh is he was very unassuming to be around. Just seemed like a sweet, nice guy. No entourage or anything, and he's one of the most famous rock stars of his day, and even still today. You would recognize a lot of his songs. The thing is, one of our moms on set, I believe it was Eddie's real life mom. She was really fascinated and impressed by the fact that we had Joe Walsh on the show, and so she had some conversations with Joe Walsh, just saying things like, "Well, man, what was it like, when just crazy rock star life that you had?" And he did admit to some crazy things he used to do. In fact, the story that got back to me was a time when and apparently this is a story that he told to Eddie's mom about when Joe Walsh and John Belushi were staying at the same hotel somewhere, and they wanted adjoining rooms, where you open a door from one room and so the two different hotel rooms can they can party together. And of course they didn't have a room like that, so apparently they went and got a chainsaw and they just cut a big hole in the wall, and then they enjoyed having a party time together with an adjoining room that was never meant to be adjoining. And of course so he told that story like, yep, that really happened. And of course there's a line in one of his famous songs that we heard earlier. We heard the song earlier, we didn't hear the line, where he talks about, I go to hotels and tear out the walls, and I have accountants that pay for it all. Yeah, so I guess that's real. Okay, now we just saw a scene where Claire visited the grave of Graham Riley, and that was the Salt Lake City cemetery in real life. The gravestone, I believe, was made of painted styrofoam. But up in that real graveyard, you'll find the actual burial sites of, like past presidents of the Mormon Church and, people like that up there. Just, lots and lots of graves up there. And Graham Riley, for, a day, had his grave up there, too. All right, this is the big confrontation where Dinah says, hey, you're not being straight with me about this, and and they're all mad at each other. This is where
There's gonna be
um,
not for me.
Josh is now very defiant,
Trevor to stay
and now he's
him you'd rather hear anyway.
saying what you could call snotty things to his mom,
Now,
and so Dad says, "Hey, don't talk to your mom like that." And Josh says, "No, I'm not going to apologize for this, not this time." And then so it's this family crisis here, and Russell doesn't know what's going on now. Josh leaves, and Russell's about to get a giant eye opener here. Because all they knew before was that Mom was a big fan of Graham Riley. They didn't know she was possibly a groupie of Graham Riley. Who knows what really happened between Claire and Graham Riley back in the day. And they never quite get specific about that, other than Claire does say, "I made a fool of myself in the worst way possible, and that's why I never, told you about this. It wasn't that I thought you'd be jealous. It was just, it was such a mess that I just wanted to forget that it ever happened." Now backing up just a little bit, we saw the grave site a moment ago, and according to Graham Riley's headstone, he was born in 1950, died in 1991. So I guess in that case, when this episode airs, he's only been dead for about 5 years, but they already have this huge Graham Riley Music Festival in his honor there in Evanston. And if he was born in 1950, he would have been, 18 or 19 years old when he performed at Woodstock. So I don't know. The math just doesn't quite add up to me. But again, I guess they're not expecting people to stop and think about it too hard as they're constructing this episode. Otherwise, it's somewhat plausible. And again, it gives them a good excuse to get into the history here of, what happens when parents have to tell their kids, don't act like I did when I was your age. All right, so back to the story here. Here comes Pam Riley, and she's blaming them for the fact that her son has run away. And she wants to know if they know where he went, and now they feel awful. What a terrible mess they've made. Her son ran away. Claire's kids are mad at her. What a mess.